Good morning. It is Thursday, August 27th, 2026. This is DeProgram with Ted Rall and Jamarl Thomas. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Q&A shows Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The Fridays are exclusive. I've got to make sure Trent wants us to remind you that if you are a subscriber to the show, we're doing the very first of our exclusive Hangouts for subscribers only this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So basically, the way this is going to work is I need you to email the show with your name and YouTube username in order to verify your membership status. This is only for Tier 3 members. These are people who pay $19.99 a month. You guys, so the email for the show, which I'm going to put up in a second, is deprogrampodcast@gmail. That's deprogrampodcast@gmail.com. Just a reminder, this is only for the Tier 3 members. At 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you do the adjustments. You'll get a reply with a link to a StreamYard session. You will click that link to join. This is important. You have to make sure that your microphone and camera are active. They're not when you by default. They're not on. The chat goes until 8 p.m. So you'll be hanging out with me and JT. Robbie, are you going to be joining us for that?
I will be, yeah. And okay. we may have a special guest who wants to debate yours truly, depending on if he's man enough to accept the invitation.
He better be a Tier 3 member.
I don't know if he is or not, but either way, it's going to be spirited.
Oh, all right. Okay. Here, I'm going to do. All right. So, I think I am able to do the screen share for this one. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. All right. I'm putting this guy up. This is the info for what's going on. Let's see. Where are you? Maybe I can't do it. Maybe I'm too dumb. Oh, there we go. Add. That could be.
Can do.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's really
Boomer. Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer. There it is. All right, I guess. Okay, thanks, Robbie. So yeah, that's all the stuff that I just said. I'll leave it up there for a little while. Just okay, a little while has now transpired. I'll just go over what we're talking about today, and then I got to sort of throw you something that came across my feed. Just this morning, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit because I feel like I had a realization about the nature of propaganda this morning. I wanted to test it out against you, Jamarl. So,
nice.
Canada is fighting back. Who knew that they had it in them? Well, they do drink hard and they play hockey, so we know that they're down with violence and they know how to kill Indigenous people, and the Indigenous people know how to kill animals. So, okay, they're not nonviolent. Meta has reached a sort of a big tobacco style settlement with 47 states.
Yes.
$17 billion. Texas has a separate, because everything's different in Texas. Texas is bigger. $1 billion separate settlement with them. The indications are that this is probably a good deal for Meta because their stock went up. And then, we know we've been talking here on the show about how the U.S. is out of missiles. And now, sadly, Taiwan and Japan are worried that we might not be able to have enough missiles in order to fight a big war against China. So,
which is so funny.
It's so sad. Funny. It's funny as shit.
I mean, it's like I love I love the way that we think about this from this kind of U.S. perspective. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Is it?
No, go ahead. No, I'm listening. Go.
Okay, well, it's the perspective of the people who write these articles. I'm fascinated by, because somebody had to write down, and with all the seriousness in the world, say, well, Japan and Taiwan are worried that the United States is not going to be able to fight a war against China for defense of something, either China or Taiwan, or I'm sorry, either Japan or Taiwan. And it's like, dude, Iran, that is nowhere near the industrial capacity of China, has just taken what was amounting to trillions of dollars of assets in the Middle East, meaning from the standpoint of the wars and everything else, and rolled that up in 6 months. I mean, in 6 months, you have articles that are saying the U.S. has effectively been pushed out of the Middle East. And even NBC News reporting billions of dollars in damage to U.S. bases. I think they call it unprecedented amount of damage. Like we've never seen this level of damage in any of the wars that the United States fought, especially in the modern era.
Ridiculous.
And so it's kind of like, okay, so if you can't deal with Iran, why are we having a conversation about China? You were never able to defend Taiwan. You were
Right.
never able to do it.
That you shouldn't even. Yeah, you should. Here's the thing too. You probably shouldn't even pretend like you could. Right. Like
Right.
it's
It
like
doesn't help you.
everyone knows you're bullshitting. Everyone knows you're lying. And it's kind of like at a certain point, are you lying to your own people? Are you lying to yourselves? Like, what is it? I mean, like,
Yeah.
seriously, I don't even want to enumerate the reasons why the China thing is impossible, but it's impossible. We
Yeah.
can enumerate that later, I guess.
I
Okay,
mean,
let me
you're
show you
right.
some. Let me show you this
Yeah.
propaganda thing. Okay, this is
All right.
on X this morning. All right, so let me. Okay, I might need Robbie. I might need your help to put this up here again. Okay, so it might be hard to see this, but this is the official Twitter feed, X feed for the Department of Homeland Security, and there's Trump, and he says, and he's inexplicably under an umbrella, and he very chillingly says, "Did you remain loyal?" Now, of course, this is very like McCarthyist, very
Yes.
1950s, and also comes at the same time that he sicked the Department of Homeland Security on Ilhan Omar. Right? He's investigating to see. I mean, look, as Beria of the NKVD famously said, "You show me the man, I'll show you. I'll find the crime." Right? I mean, there's so many laws. Everybody's broken some law, even if you're a quote unquote law abiding citizen. So, I mean, a lot of immigrants, have kind of inconsequentially wrong answers on their immigration applications
A
and stuff.
period is missing. A T is
Yeah,
not dotted.
exactly.
Right.
I mean, you can always
Right.
find something. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that the person shouldn't be in the country. It just means like, it's kind of like it's a technicality because it's so ridiculous. So, all right. So I was looking at this and it's like, I don't want to get into the old Ilhan Omar as we can talk about that another time. But I was thinking about the difference between how this is fascist propaganda and how it fits into us. And I collect propaganda posters from communist, Soviet Union and from China and from Nazi Germany and everything, Vichy France. And I realized this morning, I'm like, I just turned 63 yesterday, and I'm like, okay, so this is like my realization. Fascism is about fear, right? Like, did you remain loyal? It's like if you look at Nazi propaganda, there's a lot of glowering, there's a lot of scowls. If you look at Donald Trump, he's actually a pretty smiley dude in real life, but he famously practices his scowls, like for his mugshot and everything. He says that he wants to look like Churchill, who was a right-wing politician.
Right.
But the propaganda of the right, like Nazi Germany, was like very all fear-based, like, do what you're supposed to or else. It's not really inspired. Communist propaganda, which is still propaganda, it's still from from authoritarian regimes. But notice everybody's smiling, right? There's like brighter colors. There's red and yellow, and there's flowers like in the Chinese stuff. If you look at Nazi propaganda, there's a lot of sort of darker colors, a lot of gray palettes of the colors that are there. It's a lot of shadows. And I realized like that's the big difference between fascism and communism, right? Like far right ideology, the way it enforces itself is through propaganda of fear. Do what we say or else. Whereas communism is attempting to inspire you. It's like, let's all pull together. Let's build socialism. Let's make the country better. Let's improve our productivity, right? Let's all do it together. Now, I just thought it was, I don't know, is that like an obvious observation or?
I don't know if it's obvious. What is that book? The 90 Days That Shook the World or something like that? I can't think of the exact name of it.
Yeah, I
That
think
book,
it's 18 days, right? But it's John Reed. Yeah.
that book is emancipatory.
Mhm.
Like meaning that book is, it's so, for one, it glosses over a lot of blood, right? There's that.
Well, that's true.
But it's so it's infectiously optimistic.
Mhm.
And I think that's your point.
Yeah.
Like for example, when I was in Malaysia, and there's this picture of a man and woman holding a globe, and they're standing up, like they're moving into the future. Okay, that's
Right.
optimistic, right? But we are going to build a better world. That's what we can do, and we can build that better world together. Now, obviously, it's glossing over a lot,
Sure.
but it's the mindset of this is what we're trying to do. And even Soviet literature, like if there was what is the name of that book? What is the name of the book? It's basically a person comes back. He lives on Mars, and he's bringing people to Mars, and it's basically Soviet idea of what communism was if it was transplanted to another planet. Basically, if you didn't have the factors that are the complex factors on Earth and you transplant it there, what does this look like? And again, it's this idea of we're building a system, we're building a society, we're building a new model, we're building this new stuff. Fascism, it's more blunt, brutal, I suppose. I mean, even in the United States, in the way that it's operated, this is a vicious system.
Yeah.
And Trump can practice the scowls all he wants and everything else, but the system is I guess your point is there's similarities between the way, let's say, the Nazis or the way the fascists in Germany or in Italy, or for that matter, in the way that Trump effectively operates his government. Yeah, I can go with that. I got to be honest, I'm not overtly well versed on all of the German posters and everything else in order to make this kind of proportional analysis of how many were scowling and threatening.
Trust me.
But
Yeah.
right. I'll take your word on it for this one because I know you follow this stuff immensely. So no, I accept that. I didn't notice it, but I accept it. I knew the Soviet thing was more emancipatory. Like, we're going to build this great system and this great world, and we're going to change the world, and blah blah blah. They meant it. They were true believers.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fascist system was terrifying. I mean, in general.
Yeah, and it's like, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's not trying to seduce you. Socialism is trying to seduce you.
Right.
And then and that's kind of like, and both of these systems are kind of differentiated from authoritarian regimes that are neither really left wing or right wing, like Turkmenbashi or Saddam Hussein, or Saddam Hussein was more left than right, but still not really a communist.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cult of personality. That's, look at me, I'm awesome, and I've got it covered, and we stick with me, and everything's gonna be cool. That's a different thing too. And if you just look at the administration, right? This administration, they scowl, they glare. It's not. I mean, about the only optimistic messaging that you see coming out of them is about, like, oh, look at our great reflecting pool, or look how cool, the ballroom's going to be. Look how pretty look at the race cars going around DC, and it's kind of like little boy cool. Like, look at what we did. Like, my Legos are bigger than your Legos. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and I think that's in a way why fascism is short-lived. I mean, because fear is just not really a powerful motivator for a long time. It's a very powerful motivator, but not for year after year after year after year. People just get sick of it.
I think it depends on the power structure, but yeah. And by the way, Trump does run with the idea of, we're going to have the greatest economy in the history of economies. I had the biggest presidential event at the thing than any other presidential event in the history of presidential events. He does that. Like, we got the greatest healthcare system in the history of the world once we get rid of Obamacare. Hey, what are you going to replace it with? Something fantastic. Like, he does play that card, but it's so shallow.
It's not inspirational, right? It's not asking you to join, right? It's not saying, like, let's do this together, right? Like, in socialism, it's always like big crowds of people moving together with flowing red flags, and
he wants you to obey. There's a difference.
And he wants to brag about what he's supposedly already done, or what more likely what he's already done, or what he might be planning to do. Yeah. But that's more in the strongman, Gaddafi motif.
Well, more than that, there's a ancient Greek general. I can't remember what his name was right now. I'm getting a brain fart. If it's not Socrates, but He said that constant exposure to danger breeds contempt for them, and
Yes.
that's why fear doesn't. There comes a point where what terrifies you no longer terrifies you anymore.
You get used to it.
Yeah,
That's the way human beings are wired, Rob.
That's the difference between fear and hope.
Yeah, and I think that like Trump did he did offer hope in 2016.
Did he?
You know, only I can fix it. I will rebuild. I will make America great again. I will, bring coal back, coal mining and beautiful jobs back to West Virginia. I'll reopen the Carrier factory in Indiana. I'll reopen the Lordstown plant in Ohio. Those are all.
Hope? I mean, that's
hope.
That sounds still like the same. I have the biggest ballrooms. The economy is going to be the greatest in the world.
Well, he said that he was going to bring Gary, Indiana back to life. That used to be like one of the major industrial hubs of the country. It no longer exists. It is dead.
Right. That's true.
And so if you're going out, that's one of the reasons why I supported him. We talked about this yesterday. I knew what I was going to get from a establishment Republican. I knew what I was going to get with Hillary Clinton. Trump offered hope of something different.
Yeah,
burning it down, doing a hard reset, blowing up the system that literally has destroyed the country. Right. Now, looking back, it's easy to look back, for over 10 years of time and say, well, Robbie, you're obviously misguided. You were wrong. Well, obviously now, yeah, because we have the benefit of hindsight. But at the time, this is a guy who called George W. Bush a war criminal, put Jeb on a cross on a national stage, and blew up the Republican primary system through force of will and self-funding.
Yeah, he got credit for that. He got credit for that.
For sure. No, he revolutionized. I mean, I don't think, particularly the Democrats, but even the Republicans, I don't think they've caught up to the innovations in campaigning that Trump initiated in 2016.
But that's just it. If you remember, in the very beginning, he didn't even have a campaign thing. Like, he didn't even have a floor game. Like,
right. He had a closet in Trump Tower.
Yeah.
With no staff inside.
Thing. Yeah.
And what he had is that but one of the reasons why, JT, you talked about this before, the apocalypse that YouTube unleashed. A big part of that is because there's so many people like me, you, just normal people, just getting over on YouTube, making channels, and we were actively campaigning for this guy who is a complete outsider.
Yeah.
And his punchline, what the hell do you have to lose? Is magical.
Well, it's kind of not though, right?
That statement is not.
Well, at the time, because
my Russian friends always say the problem with you Americans is you think that if things are shitty, they can't get worse. In Russia, we know that's not true.
Right, they can always do worse. Right.
There's always worse. Always.
Right.
I mean, my grandfather told me this about like how there was this sadistic SS guard in his camp at Buchenwald, and they were terrified of him. And then they heard like, oh, he's being that guy, Hans is being transferred to the Eastern Front. But rather than being happy, all the prisoners were really glum and scared because you're like, look, okay, Hans is a sadistic bastard, but we know Hans. We know how to suck up to Hans. We know how to stay on his good side. We know Hans. Like, who knows what's going to replace Hans, right? I mean, you got to be careful. What do you have to lose? You have a lot to lose,
That's a good point. The devil you know versus the one you don't.
Well, I mean, can you have a representative style of government without hope baked into the system? I don't think you can.
No.
Because you've got to have hope that you can change course.
Yes.
And that's what Trump
Otherwise,
offered.
people won't vote.
Of course.
I agree.
And then the entire thing implodes. So, I mean, that was Trump's masterpiece. That's what he did. And I think that at the time
I think it didn't hurt that he had a really terrible candidate to run against too.
Yeah.
Oh, for
Both
sure.
times, Clinton Clinton was the worst candidate in the world to be put up at that particular time to run. He had an anti-establishment election,
right?
And she was literally the most establishment candidate,
right,
that you could come up with.
True. Yeah,
like
you could just throw a dart at a random senator other than her and done better.
Yes,
Cory Booker, done. You know,
I think you still have the same issue. I think the issue is you have an establishment candidate. Cory Booker was every bit as much as establishment as Clinton.
100%. In some ways, more. He took more Wall Street money.
He might have been a better candidate, though. He might have not have taken it for granted in the way that she did.
Well,
I mean, Clinton ran the race
Cory
right.
Booker comes from. He's not of the people anymore, but he comes from the people. I mean, he's from Newark. He got covered with, his body is covered with burns from saving his neighbor from a fire.
It's also covered with money.
That's true too. Yeah, he is.
Taking over with money.
We've
like
got
money
some
band-aids all over.
Got some comments. Maybe Blue Funk, thanks for the dono. Guys, on this topic, on the Trump scowl, I grew around chaotic families, but the scowl feels like kind of an evangelical thing. That seems strange to me. Thoughts on how his scowl reads to others?
A scowl comes across as evangelical.
Robbie, you're the DeProgram evangelical. Tell us.
I don't see an evangelical component in it. I think he's trying to make himself look strong. He's trying to make himself feel like he's set apart. Really, what he's doing is he's showing himself to be a tired, weak old man.
Yeah,
he's like. I mean, he said that he told one of his. He wants to look like Churchill, and so
he doesn't.
Why would you want to look like the guy who destroyed Britain?
Well, no one knows what a bastard
Britain supposedly
was.
won World War II, right? Was there any nation except for the ones that got bombed into oblivion that lost more than Britain did?
No, I mean Churchill. I think Churchill was an asshole, but
he destroyed the British nation,
but that's not his reputation, right?
Oh, I understand. It's because the winners write the history books. But if you actually just go
that's
through
why
and
he
do
was turned out immediately at the end of the war.
Right.
Yeah,
the Brits didn't like him.
Well, why would you?
I mean, Britain had 51% of the territory around the globe after the First World War.
Yeah, and the thing, he lost everything through the gates open. He signed the Bretton Woods Agreement. So if that's your future, is to mortgage your nation and peg your currency onto another country, by definition, you are no longer great. That's why it's not called. Yeah, it's called Britain. Maybe the UK, if someone's feeling generous.
Well, it is still called Great Britain, but yeah.
Well, where? Who calls it great?
It's the United. Isn't it the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland?
That's the official name. But seriously, I mean, who in the world? Because there used to be a day where you could take a sterling certificate, and that was good anywhere. The British pound was the unit of measure globally.
It used to be,
even if no one could understand all those shillings.
And now,
and
now you have more than half of the domestic population who can't even get jobs because there's so much pressure from automation, AI, and immigration.
Yeah, but
what's great about it?
You're kidding. Trump's not thinking about Churchill's ideology. This is about marketing. He's thinking
Churchill helped win the war. He defended Britain. I'm defending America.
Great orator.
Thing. I don't think he's looking further into it.
Well, that just God. I hope that Shell are wrong, because if that's how shallow and stupid Americans are now, it's bad. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them on the streets. We shall fight. I mean, it's just like, dude,
we will fight them in the porn stars' bedrooms.
Right.
We will fight them on Epstein's Island. We will fight. We will fight them at the wrestling match.
No bullshit. I think this is all just. I mean, look. What
imagery
of depth has Trump demonstrated to you to give you any impression that this goes beyond surface deep? Meaning when he's Trump Tower, he doesn't own it. He's just putting his name on it. And when he's trying to present this stuff, I guarantee you, it is, I want to look a particular way. It doesn't require substance.
No.
It's all marketing.
Totally.
Iran is going to end we're almost at the war. We're at the closing of the war with Iran. We're going to close it with Iran. He said it 40 sometimes. This is not a person with a certain amount of depth or they care about the honesty of a particular situation. This is all about optics. It's about image.
He has no knowledge of history other than
I don't believe he has a
living
single
what he
knowledge
lives through personally. Right. That's it.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'll go after I say this, but when Lee surrendered at Appomattox, on April 9th, 1865, when Jefferson Davis found out, because he ordered Lee to continue fighting. He wanted Lee just to go to the Appalachians and just basically wage a guerrilla war. Lee rescinded the order of the President of the Confederate States of America, and Davis went into a rage. And Davis is like, how dare this man rescind the order? And his aide, Benjamin Butler, said, Mr. President,
You lost the war.
Robert E. Lee, General Lee said 300,000 men is enough.
Yeah.
That's Churchill's fatal problem. He was, we always talk crap about the Japanese of Hirohito. You'll charge the beaches with bamboo spears. Winston Churchill was the exact same way. He would have emulated his entire population for the sake of his hatred of the German people. And the only reason that he was on the winning side is because FDR bailed him out with American blood and American treasure.
Well, also Churchill was also right about Hitler. Like, meaning,
Yeah, that's true.
Neville Chamberlain, who was doing the whole appeasement strategy, he was wrong. He was like demonstratively wrong about the type of person that Hitler was. Churchill got it right, which is the
Although it
reason
is also true that Hitler was not going to invade Great Britain.
Well, it's also true. I mean,
He thought Hitler's theory was that, like, there was so much German in the English royal family that they, they're kind of like natural allies, and at bare minimum, they would just leave each other alone.
Well, they always have been. Germany,
Operation Sea Lion was an explicit effort to try to invade Britain. I mean, even the Battle of Britain in the air was in order to have Operation Sea Lion.
Hitler didn't want that, though. Hitler did not want war with England.
Well, but one thing you got to think about, and a lot of people don't realize this, that the German people and the English people never had a war with each other through in all of European history. Think about this: for over 1,000 years before World War I. Why is that?
Because France is in between.
Well, because they're natural allies, just like the United States and Russia could be natural allies if we were ruled by
or the United States and Iran.
No, and the fact of the matter is, I'm going to take some flack from this too. Stalin was a monster, and so was Hitler. So if you have to choose between one monster or the other, how about you choose neither one?
Wait a minute. Why do you think Germany and Britain were natural allies?
Well, because they both, so a couple of different reasons. One, that a shared history. The Saxons were a Germanic people.
Yeah, that's true.
Second, the France was the bigger threat for for the Holy Roman Empire and also for England. You got to remember, William of Normandy was French. He's the one who conquered the Saxons. He's the one who tried to impose French law, tried to erase English identity. They remembered this stuff, and the Holy Roman Empire had to deal with all these problems too.
Yeah, there are definitely close ties between, cultural and ethnic ties between Germany and England.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was never a war even in the War of the Austrian Succession, with Frederick the Great. Germany, the Holy Roman Empire, or Prussia, and England fought together for 8 years against the Spanish and the French. That was always the dichotomy there. World War I was not a natural war.
All right. We're running low on time. Sorry to be like that, but I'm going to be like that. Okay. All right. What do you want to talk about first, JT? Canada, meta, or the fact that we don't have any bombs left?
Let's talk about meta real quick.
All right.
Well, I mean, the bombs thing definitely, but I want to talk about meta real quick.
Right.
Just so I'm understanding, because I want to make sure I understand the lawsuit. They effectively fined Meta because they're saying that Meta is bad for kids and that they went with a policy of trying to ensure that kids stay on as long as possible. And so they're hitting them with a lawsuit for billions of dollars.
$200 billion.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah. So basically, it's a it's a class action series of product liability suits that it's analogous to big tobacco in that it basically says, if used as directed, this product is bad for you, right? So under American law, if that's the case, that's what tobacco went down for. If you use this as directed, you can get lung cancer and die. So if you use social media as directed, your kid might commit suicide or just become depressed or whatever. So the thing is, so the state attorneys general all filed suit except for a few states, and they basically sued for a total of over $200 billion This is a settlement. So Meta decided, okay, we'll pay and we'll make some changes. It's a complicated settlement, but
I mean,
basically they have to pay $17 billion. The states get all, are going to divvy up that cash, and then it's going to pay. And they structured, Meta's lawyers structured the deal to incentivize it so that like their competitors like TikTok and Snapchat and YouTube would also, if they settle with the states, then Meta will pay even more, an extra $5 billion. So this could be a $22 billion settlement.
This seems weird to me. Meta's job, it is to get people to watch Meta. Like that's their job. Like when they create social media, what is the point of social media if not for people to be social on social media? And it's every incentive in the world for Google, Meta, Instagram, TikTok, pick any particular company, is to keep eyes on screen. If they could have you sit there for 10 hours out of a day, they would want you to do that because it's in their best interest for you to do that. How are they being hit for something that is their business model?
It's the child aspect of it. And I think it's
isn't
more
that the parent's
political.
responsibility?
Well, I think the whole point is that the parents have been complaining for years that they can't. There's nothing they can do, right? And I think that's, as a parent myself, I can tell you that's true, right? I mean, basically, it's impossible to keep your kid out of Snapchat. I mean, it's like it's like, are you over 18? Yes. I mean, it's like there's no controls, right? So there was no attempt to control it. It's sort of like if the tobacco companies were marketing to children, right, with flavored cigarettes and then and now flavored e-cigarettes. They were Joe Camel, who inexplicably they thought was cute to kids. I mean, I think he was gnarly and looked like a penis, but what do I know? But like I think it's the kid aspect of it, and I think it's more political than anything else because it's like, by all means, addict our adults to tobacco and social media, but not our innocent, poor children. And so, that's. I think
agree with
they
the
were
lawsuit?
going to get their asses kicked.
I
I
mean,
have
it
trouble
would
with the
seem-
lawsuit from a legal point of view.
See, I have trouble with it from a libertarian point of view. It just seems very weird to be like, okay, we are going to allow these social media companies, and then we're going to ding them. And so now the social media company has to do something to inhibit people from watching its product when the product is based on people watching the product. Okay, how does that work?
Well, it's like
Like that's why I was against Hillary Clinton's gun thing.
the tobacco companies sold a legal product in the United States for 2 centuries. It was so legal that they had corporate headquarters in major cities and that you could see, from miles away. And they advertised in national magazines and on television. It was legal. And then it's like, and then you're going to sue them for like, if it's kind of like, if it was dangerous, which obviously tobacco is dangerous, it should be banned by the FDA or whatever other regulatory agency is required. I mean, it should be regulated, but like you let people sell a product and then, you nail them for it. I mean, that said,
So how do you regulate this? Just say, okay, well, kids can only watch 2 hours, and we're going to put some kind of structure in our thing to damage our business model to keep kids from watching 2 hours. Like this. And by the way, there's a difference to me between tobacco that causes cancer, emphysema, heart disease, etc., as opposed to people watching social media. I mean, I like it. It may rot their brain, but it's not cancer.
Well, I mean, kids have died, right? I mean, because they've been bullied online. They've been, they've been encouraged to commit suicide via social media. So literally,
life is hard.
Well, okay, but like when I was bullied as a kid, the bullying stopped when I left the school. It's like this is like there's no respite. It's 24/7.
What kills more
The entire
people?
world sees it.
What kills more
can
people,
follow you
alcohol
home.
or social media?
More
Alcohol.
What kills more people, alcohol or social media? Which one has a higher cost?
I would imagine alcohol.
Then why don't you just ban everything then and just put everyone to a nice little prison so that way they can't have any freedom at all?
Right there. It's that part. Like it feels like a nanny state stuff again, and it feels like the state are just taking advantage in order
It's
to get
also
money out
political,
of a
though.
company.
Meta is a very unpopular company.
Sure.
Mark Zuckerberg is an unappealing personality, and he's the
Sure.
public face of Facebook. I mean, I think the politics of this are a huge part of it. I mean, Silicon Valley has been incredibly arrogant, and when people have a problem, let's say someone posts something that harms you, and that you cannot pick up a phone and say, "Hey, my ex-girlfriend posted a nude picture of me on Facebook.
Take that off.
Can you remove that?" There's literally no way to do that. And so, and also, I remember reading this startling statistic. Now, this is way out of date, right? This was like 5 years ago. But basically, at the time, Facebook employed, I think, about 10,000 employees. They had twice the market cap of General Motors. General Motors, directly or indirectly through suppliers, employed 2.5 million Americans.
Wow.
And now, so like the footprint of a company like General Motors, you could have a product liability case against Big Auto, right? You could say, your cars crash all the time. People die every day in cars. The pollution is destroying the planet. All that would be true. But people would say, no. GM, we love GM so much that even in a case of an economic downturn, we approve of the government giving them billions of dollars to save them. Because why? Because they're too big to fail. They have so many jobs. Facebook isn't too big to fail. If Facebook went away, literally dozens of Americans would lose their jobs. It would not matter at all. And everybody would just jump over to other social media companies. It would not matter. You just delete that app. That's it.
Ted, why are you against all these H-1B visa holders who will be losing their jobs at Meta headquarters?
That's a good point.
I mean,
yeah, that's another thing too. The H-1B.
You need to seriously check your racism right now, because it's unacceptable. It's untenable. It's over the pale.
I am very sorry. I apologize.
There's like all these good immigrants trying to take American jobs, and just want to stop them from doing so.
They're an unpopular company.
Well, I get that. I do get that. But my argument is not coming from the popularity of Facebook. Obviously, I'm not making a rah-rah argument for Zuckerberg or for Facebook in and of itself. I think it just feels very strange. Like it's a little bit more esoteric than to just say somebody gets cancer, heart disease, or emphysema. So that's why I'm taking out this notion of cigarettes as a comparison, because I think these things are radically different. From the standpoint of kids' brains turning to mush, I agree with you, true, but it's their model, and we let them set that model up. And now we're saying you need to do something. The parents can't deal with parental responsibility. And so now we need the company to somehow decapitate itself. Okay, fair enough. How far do we go?
Lightly gilded.
Okay, does that apply to Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, etc.? Because we're saying we're going to pick favorites. We're going to damage Facebook in lieu of these other companies.
Right. Well, it definitely applies to TikTok and Snapchat.
I don't know. I'm dodgy about this.
No, I mean, I think the legal aspect is hard, because it's like, I think basically, look, if Mark Zuckerberg were a warm, cuddly dude and he was employing 2.5 million Americans,
they wouldn't touch it.
This would not have happened.
I mean, look at the shit we put in our foods. Nobody complains about that. Like, generally recognized as safe. Okay, in Europe, they wouldn't touch that stuff. Wouldn't touch it. And it's like, okay, so it's very possible that people are getting cancer and other diseases as a result of the American diet, because we allow corporations to maximize their profit at 100%. The expense of Americans' health. Nobody takes issue with that. Facebook. I mean, like, McDonald's exists.
Although if your kid committed suicide, because of suicidal ideation, right, you would probably be pretty fucking upset. I mean, there have been suicides. Look, I take your point. Look, I also think the solution here probably is not. Okay, let's talk about the money too. I think this part's really super important, right? Yeah. So if the government was really just interested in solving the problem, money wouldn't be involved. Like I always say about traffic tickets. Like, If you're just interested in, just getting people to slow down because it's safer, then you just have a point system. Every time someone gets a ticket, they get closer to having their license suspended, and so that's
Right.
the incentive, right? You
Right.
don't you don't need to charge people money, and it only affects poor people. It doesn't, rich people don't care; they just pay the ticket or
Right.
hire an attorney. And so this is the same sort of thing. This is a shakedown. This is an opportunity for the states, right? Like, I don't think this money is going to the parents of suicided kids or
It's
kids,
not.
or it's not going. There's not going to be a trust fund for kids who are suffering from depression to go, get a $350 an hour psychologist, right? That none of that's going to happen. Let's look at what happened with the big tobacco settlement. This will be exactly the same. It became a slush fund for all sorts of things that were unrelated. Supposedly, the tobacco settlements were going to go for a bunch of public education campaigns about the dangers of tobacco. That never happened, right? So the states used it to pay down deficits, to give their state employees and state legislators raises, to buy new computers that they had been putting off for years. All maybe things that needed to happen, but it was a slush fund. And
Right.
and it was here in New York State, there was a community of Orthodox Jews who suffered from low fertility rates due to inbreeding, and in upstate New York,
Do the
they
inbreeding?
inbreeding, yeah,
Okay.
and basically, yeah, I mean that's why that's why they had low fertility. And anyway, they applied to the state for tobacco funds to get help with to pay for IVF. I
That's what I
mean,
mean.
shit
Like,
like that, right? Like it was just sort of like a unrelated bonanza cash. That's what this is. This is definitely this is my libertarian side speaking too.
it's shakedown.
I mean, it's cynical. It's not going to address the issue. It's not like, oh, now with $17 billion, there ought to be a public health clinic for under 18-year-olds in every city, right? From now on, forever. We're going to hire staffers oh, are you feeling down? Are you being bullied? Pop into the community psych center and we'll take care of you. We got your back. None of that's going to happen.
I mean, the idea that we're going to make this argument, or that they're going to make this argument that this is about suicide because there are people who are online and they commit suicide because of stuff that happens online. Again, kids were committing suicide before they got to this point. And any technology that we just foist into the public without any concern for the impact
Yeah, but
on the public.
there's studies that
Right.
show the direct correlation. Yeah.
Well, there may be a correlation from the standpoint of, I guess I'm trying to make the point of, any social entity that you allow people to communicate in such a way, there obviously there are going to be consequences associated with it, especially when you're dealing with kids. I guess I'm saying it's in the bricks. It will be this way for any device that allow people to communicate off hours and everything else that would allow, let's say, bullies or people who will behave in such a way to go after people who are weaker. It's not. It doesn't have to be Facebook. It could be Rando Book that does something very similar. I hope that makes sense. It's the social media aspect of it. It's not the company aspect of it. And the second point, the government doesn't care about that.
That was my
It's kind of
point.
like them saying, for example, they would say, well, we need to stop pedophilia. So we need each and every person to identify who they are online with an ID number associated with it and where their computer is located. And you would get some people who would say, well, we obviously need to stop child pedophilia. So we obviously need to acquiesce to this particular breach or this movement of authoritarianism. Okay, I feel this in some of similar ways. Look, I've had a friend, when my wife and I were married, her niece tried to commit suicide. And she went online. She wasn't being bullied. She went online to brag that she was taking her life. She took a huge amount of pills. And if it wasn't for Dana coming home a little bit early than what she would typically come home, that kid would have died.
Mhm.
And it wrecked my wife. Like, she was in shambles. And the dad obviously was in tatters. That had nothing to do with online. That was a kid being a kid. And as bad as that sounds,
Well, wait a minute. I mean, are you sure? I mean, seriously, like the bragging aspect. I mean,
She
I
went
wouldn't
online to brag.
brush over that so much. I mean, like she went online and like, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I mean, is it
Yes.
possible that without that outlet, she might have, like,
I
just like, if I'm just going to do this solo, she might not have
I
done it.
don't know.
I
Yeah.
I don't know.
guarantee you, from the time that I worked at the hospitals and healthcare for the last 12 years of my life, SSRIs and antidepressants do so much more damage than social media ever has. The difference is that social is that uh, big pharma really is just baked in with their lobbying system and stuff with insurance
That's
and everything
exactly what
else.
I
It's,
know.
it's baked into the system. This has nothing to do with public health. This has nothing to do with mental illness, with mental illness or the health of the American
I think it's a
population.
shakedown.
Yeah, that's all this is.
It's a
This is
shakedown.
low hanging. It's like the data centers. Look at these evil data centers are popping up. They're the greatest problem of all time. Meanwhile, we're $40 trillion in debt. Sorry, Zucky's not responsible for that.
Well, see, the difference with the data centers is the 40 trillion is theoretical from the standpoint of most Americans. The data centers sucking away your power where you have to pay more as a power bill.
Sure.
That's pain, right? That's what I said. Pain matters. Pain is the thing that focuses the mind. No, I agree with you.
Well, both those things are true though, because the more inflation you have, the higher your costs go for commodities. Electricity and
True.
water is a commodity. It's
Yeah.
just one you're able to see, the other one's just more abstract. But at the end of the day, though, those little pill bottles that we're shoving up Ritalin and the ADD medication, the SSRIs, all this other stuff, it is a poison. People don't understand how powerful these drugs are, and they are overprescribed for profit.
Yeah, I think this is over. Look, it's not that I'm not trying to be heartless to families associated with the stuff, but I do think these families are being used at this. I think they're being used as useful idiots in order for the state to get cash.
Well, it's
And we'll be
definitely
honest with
it's
you,
definitely
it's
a
like
giant shakedown for sure.
yeah, it's a shakedown.
Not that Meta can't afford it, but yeah, I'm sure that privately in the C-suite at at Meta HQ, they're like, "Oh, brother, it's
Just
just
pay them off.
pay them off,
Get
make
this
them
over with.
fucking go away." It's a
Yeah,
good deal for them, right? I mean, it's like it's only 17 instead of $200 billion.
hey, Fat Tony, here's your bag of money. Leave us our devices.
Yeah, it's what happens when you become successful. You have a target on your back. I mean, that is true. I mean, it's also true that Mark Zuckerberg's an asshole. All right,
True.
let's do some comments here. Phileas Fob, if you don't center eugenics and race science in it, you understand fascism 0%. If you do, you know it never ended. Search protest psychosis, racist antipsychotic ads, and John Metzel's book. All right.
Well, just also exceptionalism. Just the very thought of we are exceptional. We are somehow better. Even the way that the Europeans act, like there's still these colonial powers. These countries are nothing in the modern era.
True.
If it wasn't their tick on the US's ass, and they use the US as power projection, which is why they're so busy bending over backwards in regards to why they wouldn't stand up, whereas Carney would. No, I think all of that plays into it. I mean, the moment that you come away with the assessment that you are somehow better than the Russians, and you're somehow morally superior, despite all of the just the deranged, degenerate, psychopathic stuff that they've allowed, backed, permitted, etc. It's amazing. Like you have to wonder what's in their minds to bring them to that assessment of their unique superiority. How's your
Aardvark.
life?
Aardvark 7. Gary, Indiana's in the news right now. A bad storm has had the power out there for weeks. Yeah, there was a tornado there. Did you guys hear, Manchild, did you guys hear about the fake AI think tank funded by Israel?
Yes.
They're actively working to poison the data well.
Yes. So basically, a think tank that doesn't really exist had a bunch of money dumped into it by, let's say, Israeli funders. And the idea of it was if you can pump out a bunch of stories to make it look as if these were policy papers, all of the policy papers obviously are in favor of Israel, then you can poison the well of information that AI systems may use in order to pull information. So let's say, for example, because the AI is only going to tell you what somebody put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a bunch of junk about Israel, and by the way, they're doing this on a full court press. The company that they found in Israel, Tel Aviv, that was pushing elections, that was effectively putting chum in the waters in order to influence the direction of a particular election. They did this all over the world. They were doing this in Europe and they were doing this in Africa. And the moment that they started investigating the company, by the way, France created an organization that found what they were doing. It dissolved. It went up in smoke. But they're doing stuff like this too, poisoning the well for AI, buying television companies. So you get CBS News putting in Barry Weiss, I think it was CBS, as the top editor. Okay, well, what do you think she's going to do for stories that are negative towards Israel? They would never see the light of day.
True.
Full corporates.
Yeah. True.
Lost a generation.
Just a reminder, because now we are pretty much around peak viewership for the show hour. Tonight we have our tier 3 member only on YouTube private chat with JT and Robbie and I. So basically, if you're a tier 3 member, which means you're paying $20 a month on YouTube, you should join us tonight at 7 p.m. and we're just going to hang. It's not going to be broadcast. It's just for us. It's not going to be rebroadcast. Sorry, it's exclusive. If you'd like to join the party, it's not too late to become a YouTube subscriber, and you can join. We're going to do this every month, by the way, on the last Thursday of every month, thereabouts. So here's the procedure. If you're such a person, you email deprogrampodcast@gmail.com. That's deprogrampodcast@gmail. You send your name and, this is important, your YouTube username, okay? Then at 7 p.m., you will get a reply with a StreamYard link. You click that thing, you click the little microphone and the camera icon, and there you are, and you'll be hanging with us. We go until 8 p.m., all right? So it's just a little reminder there. Okay, so we have some more comments, and then we should probably have a few more things to talk about. So Michael Parenti on thought control. The only thing they care about is what you're thinking. The ruling class absolutely cares about what you think. Their rule depends on it, and that's true in any system.
Yes. I don't want to have to use military power for every particular issue, right?
Right.
It's a pain in the ass. It's hard. If I can control what you think, you never have to do it.
Have you been loyal? Have you been loyal? All right. So,
by the way, do you think that works on anybody? Like this, have you been loyal, or some of the stuff that is coming from the White House? It falls dead on me. In fact, I even get to the point of like, who does this even work for?
Well, I'm sort of temperamentally impervious to that kind of shit, and I would rather you put a bullet in my head and just get it over with than threaten. But it's also like, I can see through the vagueness of the threats, right? Like, it's kind of like, it's vague. It's like non-specific. That's another difference, by the way, between fascist and communist propaganda. Communist propaganda tends to be very specific, like it's directed to architects or teachers or workers or whatever. Fascist propaganda is very vague, and it's like things like, and you, and stuff like that, and like, have you been, and who's this you you're talking about? Loyal to whom? Loyal to what? What are you talking about, right? So it's like, I don't even know what it means. I don't know if it works. If it does work, I can't imagine for whom it would work. I suspect it's not really, I think it's red meat for the base, right? It's sort of like, oh, I'm loyal, but like, yeah, like let's go after the people who aren't loyal. That's not me. That's these other people who I can't really identify personally, but that's, I think that's what it's for. It's sort of an attempt to unify, like, against the other, I think. Canada's tariffs. So they decided to retaliate. Looks like Canada's got a set of balls, unlike a lot of other countries. And they're specifically targeting, they say, the Midwest and the Northeast. The Midwest, those are swing states. Midterm elections are coming. That's got to be part of the calculus, because they didn't just sort of randomly slap tariffs on. It's like they're looking for certain industries. So that's got to be, like we're gonna hit Trump in the re-election pocketbook, right? The Northeast part, I don't know if he cares about, because he's not going to have that anyway.
That's what China did, by the way. When they did reciprocal tariffs, they hit like soybean industries. They hit industries that effectively were going to be farmers that were a big part of Trump's base. When the farmers were out there effectively begging to Jesus, saying, "Please help us with a miracle," that's why, right? You've lost a market of 1.4, 1.3 billion people. That hurts. And even now with the fertilizer stuff, the costs apparently are going through the roof, especially with the inventory is the way it is. The wars that are taking place, where you get these wars in Russia and you get the war in Ukraine and Iran, both of which are choke points in regards to inventory, which increases the cost of pretty much anything dealing with diesel. So farm equipment, fertilizer, all of those things have spiked. The farmers in the U.S. are taking it in the ass. Thanks.
Iran, I mean, are they taking a cue from Iran, right? Like, sort of like, yes, the U.S. is bigger than us. Yes, the U.S. is not going to suffer as much from what we do to them as they do to us. But nevertheless, we've got bigger balls. We're gonna outlast them, and we're tougher. And we have the resolve on our side. I mean, that seems to be like a very similar mentality from two very disparate cultures.
Yeah, but it's because human beings are human beings. And, if you're asking me for a deal, or let's say you're coming to me for some kind of negotiation, hey, I don't think you should come to me for the negotiation because I'm sovereign, but I'll talk to you because I don't want to fight. And then you tell me I need to have sex with your wife. Okay, what am I to do with this? Right? Like, even if I wanted to make a deal, I can't make that deal.
We have nothing to talk about.
Same thing's true for Canada. It's like, hey, all of this is great, but I need to have sex with your wife. Yeah, no. No. Just no. It's too much. They ask too much. And what they finally realize is that any inch that you give, he's going to want more. Any inch that you give is considered weakness. If indeed they're weak on this, they'll be weak on other stuff. We can push them further. We can push them further. We can take more. We can take more. We need to win. We need to win. And more importantly, we need to make it clear that they lost. Okay, that only going to get you so far. Inevitably, somebody's going to say no.
Yeah. And just enough is enough, right? Like, and then also obviously the Canadian people are behind their government in this respect. They're furious. And I think the thing is that for them, it's really personal, and they're insulted. They're like, we have always been America's best friend. And who are they to treat us like this? And I think they're upset at us as ordinary citizens for not, screaming at the Trump administration to stop this shit.
We haven't screamed at him to stop anything at this point. Why would we start with Canada? Right? Like, he didn't attack Canada. He didn't bomb Canada.
Not yet.
He wasn't murdering Canadian fishermen out there in the
not yet.
Not yet. I mean, he did that to Venezuela. Did Canada say anything about it? No.
It's time to get those Nova Scotians. Who the fuck do they think they are with their lobster rolls?
Did Canada say shit about when we attacked Iran? No. So why is Canada now screaming that somebody should say something when Trump is going after them?
Well, they are standing up for themselves. I just don't know. Do you think they can outlast us on this?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It depends. Like, it depends on what you mean by outlast. If you mean by outlast and they make a deal that may be a little bit worse for Canada, but same token, Trump didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah, like that.
Does that count?
Yeah, I guess. Instead of just rolling over, I guess, yeah, it counts.
Yeah.
And I guess, have we settled the matter of? We have seconds left in the show, but the munitions situation. You do have to laugh, right? So we can't do, we can't send weapons to Taiwan or Japan. They're completely depleted. We have no more interceptors. Hilarious.
Yeah, but those interceptors weren't going to help at all. No. I'm sorry. The idea, if China cut loose and it's like, man,
just giving the Taiwanese money, like, hey, you're welcome.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's a laughable premise. We've expended so much for Iran. Now we can't fight China. You were never able to fight China.
No. One last donation. We're like a little over here. PW Walker, it's worse. The Carney government has officially blamed Iran for America attacking it. Our defense minister literally said there was little daylight between the U.S. and Canada on Iran. All right, well, you totally confirming your point there. All right, we're out of here. TMI coming up right now. We're on with the tier 3 dudes and ladies at tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're looking forward to that. We'll see you tonight. And as for everybody else, see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That's Friday. And
Have a
also
good one, guys.
Q&A tomorrow. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Complicated. Bye.